Wednesday, May 13th, 2026. You are listening to the Daly Dose Sports Podcast, and I am your host, Clint Daly, coming to you from the Mile High City here in Denver, Colorado, and we are back for another week of talking sports with a dose of common sense. Hey, happy Wednesday to you. Hope your week is going along well. You are now halfway to another weekend, and that's always a good thing. I hope that you, your family, your friends, everyone in your world is staying strong and healthy right now. And hey, I've got something a little bit different for you this week on the Daly Dose. You know, I've got a few things to attend to, but never fear, because I have compiled a few Daly Dose top fives from past episodes. Now, we know the NFL draft just took place a couple of weeks ago. Well, these Daly Dose top fives are heavily NFL draft flavored. In fact, we go back to some of the earliest days of the Daly Dose. I'm telling you right now, we've got some memorable Daly Dose top five lists for you today. Today, we count down the top 5 times quarterbacks were drafted, both 1 and 2. We count down the top 5 highest drafted kickers and punters ever, the top 5 draft classes of all time, and the top 5 times there were no quarterbacks taken in the first round of the NFL draft. Sit back, relax, and enjoy some of the best of the Daly Dose Sports Podcast.
Hey, as we do every single week, right now we are going to give you our Daly Dose Top 5. We do this every week. It is a very, very popular segment. You don't want to miss it. This week, with the NFL draft going, and I told you earlier, we saw the 2 quarterbacks being drafted 1 and 2. Jameis Winston at 1 and Marcus Mariota at 2. There's only been, that was only the 6th time that quarterbacks have actually been drafted in the modern era, 1 and 2. It doesn't happen that often. And so we wanted to count down the 5 times that quarterbacks have been drafted 1 and 2. And I will tell you this, for the most part, and I want you to keep this in mind with Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, one guy usually does well, one guy doesn't do so well. Sometimes you'll see both of them not do great, but usually it's one does well and one doesn't. I don't know if that's coincidence. I don't know what that is. It's hard to figure Jameis and Mariota. I've talked to you in the past about that. I'm not quite sure what to expect from either guy. I like Mariota. I think he's a good guy. He might be a good quarterback eventually. I don't think he's run anything close to a pro system, so I think that is going to be a huge adjustment for him. Jameis, I don't know what to expect from that kid. I mean, you saw him on draft night displaying his maturity as he makes sure to get his photograph with some crab legs. Obviously, he's grown up and has learned and moved forward, right? So without any further ado, let's move on to the Daly Dose top 5. 5 times quarterbacks have been drafted in the NFL draft 1 and 2. Let's go to number 5. 2012, the number 1 pick in the draft that year, Stanford's Andrew Luck went to the Indianapolis Colts. And Andrew Luck has been very, very good. We have seen, he was one of those guys that you saw him when you came out of the draft. And there are certain guys, Winston, Mariota, you look at him, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know if they're going to be good. They could be good if they get in the right system. Could be good if they get with the right team or the right coordinator. But I'm not. Andrew Luck, you just looked at and you said, man, this guy's gold. There is no way he's not going to be good unless he just has injury problems. He's huge. The funny thing about Luck, he's way more athletic than you think he is. He's really athletic, dude. Ran well in the combine. He can move for a big guy. This year, I do think he has a huge test because they have brought in some weapons and have put weapons around him. Big test for Andrew Luck this year. Number 2 in that 2012 draft. Number 2 pick was out of Baylor, Robert Griffin III. Went to the Washington Redskins, had a great year that first year, and we were sitting there going, man, Luck and Griffin, they are the future. These two are going to be so good. And then Robert Griffin got hurt, and he kind of forgot how to play quarterback. And the thing about Griffin that stands out to me is that it doesn't seem like he has a sense for avoiding injury. Like, I watch some of these guys play, and, you watch a Russell Wilson or someone like that, and he gets out of the pocket, and he's moving, and here comes a safety in, and he gets out of bounds, or he throws it away, or he slides, and Robert Griffin just has none of those senses. He just runs out, and someone just blasts him, and what happened? I had no idea. Kind of strange. Let's move on to number 4. Number 4, 1999. The Cleveland Browns select out of the University of Kentucky, Tim Couch. And Tim Couch, when he was at Kentucky, he put up some huge numbers. Problem was, Kind of that same situation with Mariota. He was playing, in a system and under coach with Hal Mumme where they were putting up these giant numbers, and you looked at him and you said, oh man, they're throwing the ball over the place. Yeah, except for he's never come in and had to read a defense at the line of scrimmage in his life because Mumme did that for him from the sideline. He had some injuries, had, some broken thumbs and some different things. Never quite got on track. Was in the league a while, but never really a starter. Number 2 selection in the 1999 draft, Syracuse quarterback Donovan McNabb, drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles, went for 13 seasons, 6-time Pro Bowler, and here's all you need to say. He took the Philadelphia Eagles to the Super Bowl. How many guys can say that? Him and like Ron Jaworski, that's it. End of the story. Donovan McNabb, never won the big one, but had a great career and was always very, very solid. But just the year before, 1998, quarterbacks taken 1 and 2 again. Number 3 on our list in 1998, number 1 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Indianapolis Colts, Tennessee quarterback Peyton Manning. And we know what Peyton has done, obviously here in Denver. He's rewritten the record book, and contrary to popular belief, actually has won a Super Bowl. I know we tend to forget that about Peyton Manning, but Manning actually has won he can never win the big one. Oh yeah, except for that time he won the big one. He has won the big one. What are you talking about? So Peyton Manning, and I know there was a lot of talk when he was coming out. Do we take him or do we take the other guy? I can remember vividly thinking, if you take the other guy, you're an idiot. Because with the number 2 pick in the 1998 draft, the San Diego Chargers selected Washington State quarterback Ryan Leaf. He had the big arm, had put up some big numbers up at Washington State, big, strong guy, except for the fact he really didn't love the game. And he really wasn't driven to be great. And you saw it right away. He came in, he didn't do his job, wasn't really studying the playbook, didn't really know what he was doing, getting mad at the media. He lasted 4 seasons in the NFL, one of the all-time biggest busts, might be the biggest bust ever drafted. 4 seasons, he was completely out of football, had some legal troubles, did some jail time for drugs. Ryan Leaf, again, one of those situations where it was boom on the one side with Peyton and bust on the other side with Leaf. Number 2 on our list, 1993. Number 1 pick in that draft, the New England Patriots select out of Washington State, Drew Bledsoe. And Drew Bledsoe was a big, strong guy, had a huge arm, all those measurables. He had a good career, but I think we all kind of remember Drew Bledsoe for what he didn't do. He played for 14 seasons in the NFL. He went to 4 Pro Bowls. He went to the Super Bowl 3 times, and he even won a Super Bowl. Well, sort of. Because the part we do remember, he had some bad losses, he had some injuries, threw a lot of interceptions, and he got replaced by Tom Brady. And Brady came in, Bledsoe had the horrific injury mid-season, and Brady came in and somehow took the Patriots all the way to the Super Bowl and won it. That's the one Super Bowl that Bledsoe was a part of. Number 2 in that draft, Notre Dame quarterback Rick Meyer, selected by the Seattle Seahawks. He had never played in a pro-style offense. I mean, Rick Meyer came into the league, he had played in that Lou Holtz offense. They kind of ran some option kind of stuff. It just wasn't the same. He had some measurables. He had a big arm and he had, some of those things, but he just never quite adjusted. He played 12 seasons in the NFL, but mostly as a backup, never really got on the field that much except for early, and he never really produced. Number 1 on our list of when quarterbacks go 1 and 2 in the NFL draft. And this for me might be the best group of the whole bunch. We've seen a few where it's hit and then miss, hit and then miss. These are 2 hits. 1971, with the first pick of the NFL draft, the New England Patriots, again, take Stanford quarterback Jim Plunkett. He was good with the Patriots, but he didn't have a very good offensive around him. He was running a Chuck Fairbanks system, so it wasn't a real conducive offense for him being a good quarterback. Didn't have much help around him either. And he ended up getting, traded to like San Francisco and then being traded to Oakland. And he ended up in Oakland, backing up Dan Pastorini. And Pastorini, I want to say he broke his leg or something. And at 33 years of age, they put Jim Plunkett in with the Raiders offense. And he takes the Raiders to the Super Bowl, wins the whole thing. 2 years later, at 35, he does it again. Is the only 2-time Super Bowl winner that is not in the NFL Hall of Fame? Never made it to a Pro Bowl. Maybe that has something to do with it. second pick in the 1971 NFL draft. Out of the Ole Miss University, the New Orleans Saints select quarterback Archie Manning. Archie Manning played 13 seasons, went to 2 Pro Bowls. And the thing about Manning, he played on like dreadful teams. Like these are not your modern day New Orleans Saints that he went to. These are your dad or your grandfather's New Orleans Saints. They could barely even field a team. They were so horrible. These are the teams that were going seasons with 1 win or no wins or 2 wins. He had no help. And somehow Archie Manning still managed to be great. He was a phenomenal player. Unlike his son with the huge forehead, a scrambler, could move around, could hurt you on the run, could do a lot of different things. He's a very, very athletic player, but he just didn't have any help around him. And you know, it just kind of goes to show you when these quarterbacks come out, it depends on where you go. You might have a ton of ability. You might have a ton of measurables. If you get in a bad situation, if you get in with a bad team, and you know, when these teams are drafting early, that is a lot of time what we're seeing. You're going to bad teams and sometimes bad system and maybe not a coach that suits, you know, what you do. You get drafted a little bit later, might be a better situation. We will keep an eye on how the Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota scenario plays out. As we do every week, we've got to get to our Daily Dose top 5. You know, another team that I would put on the loser list, I would probably put Tampa on that loser list, and I'll tell you why. The Buccaneers traded up like 3 picks to draft a kicker in the second round. A kicker. They took the kicker out of Florida State. He's got a big leg. He doesn't miss from inside of 40. He's never missed a field goal. But I don't know if I'm trading up and drafting a kicker that early. And I understand it. Because with the NFL today, with the new NFL rule changes and everything, kicking that extra point, it's a little bit bigger. I still struggle moving up to draft a kicker, though. So today, on the Daily Dose, we look back at the times that kickers and punters got drafted the highest. Today, our Daily Dose top 5, the top 5 highest drafted kickers and punters of all time. Because sometimes you move up to get a kicker or a punter, and it doesn't quite turn out the way you think it will. And sometimes it's good. We have some examples of that. Sometimes it's really, really bad. Let's count down our Daily Dose top 5. Number 5 on our list. In the first round of the 1973 draft, at pick number 23, the Oakland Raiders took a punter named Ray Guy. Ray Guy played for 13 years. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler. Led the NFL in punting 3 different seasons, and he was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2014. Hey, that's not bad. That's not bad. At the end of the day, he's still a punter. I mean, he still plays, 4 snaps a game or whatever it is, if things are going the way that you want them to go. But hey, that's about as good as it's going to get right there. That's probably the best example we're going to get right there. Number 5. Number 4, in 2000, first round. Again, a little bit of a trend here. The Oakland Raiders trade up to the number 17 pick, and with the 17th pick in the 2000 draft, they select kicker Sebastian Janikowski. Now, Janikowski is kind of a mixed bag. I'm not going to lie. Yes, he's kicked some huge kicks. Yes, he's made some really, really long kicks. He can boom the ball, but he's not always that accurate. He's made 1 Pro Bowl. I don't know that you'd really say he's made the Raiders that good. They've never won anything since he's been there. So, was that 17th pick overall in the draft? I mean, it wasn't like you brought him in and he transformed our franchise. I mean, he roofied a few more people, but I don't know if it's really that, if he's really done that much for your franchise. That's number 4. Number 3 on our list, and I've got news for you. It's going to go downhill from here. Number 3 on our list. In 1978, or the first round pick, number 15, the St. Louis Cardinals at number 15 draft Steve Little. Steve Little, who had gone to Arkansas. And Steve Little, and the reason that they grabbed him so early, Steve Little had kicked a 67-yard field goal against Texas in 1977. But when they grabbed Steve Little, it turned out that Steve Little wasn't very good. I mean, his time, and basically, he was pretty much just a field goal kicker. He made just 48% of his kicks. I mean, his accuracy wasn't very good. 6 games into the 1980 season, the Cardinals cut him. And then it kind of gets worse. Steve Little got cut, and within hours of getting cut, he had a horrible car crash that left him a quadriplegic. Needless to say, never played again. Died at the age of 43. Sad story. With Cardinals taking Steve Little, never quite turned out. Number 2 on our list, in 1979, the New Orleans Saints, who had nothing on their roster. They had no players. They needed help everywhere. So what did they do with the number 11 pick? They drafted a kicker/punter by the name of Russell Urxelben. Yeah, no, seriously, I'm not making this up. Now, again, he is also tied for longest kick in NCAA history. He had kicked a 67-yard field goal versus Rice when he played for Texas. He lasted for 6 seasons. He played in 59 games, mostly a punter, and if they needed like a long kick, he would come in and try it and usually miss it. It wasn't very good. Made about half of his kicks. He ended up, after his career, went into a career as a financial investor, and he ended up getting busted for securities fraud, and he's in the middle of serving 90 months in federal prison. Yeah, so not real good for Russell Urxelben. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Then again, he's a kicker. Who cares? What's he going to do? Number 1 on our list, Daly Dose, top 5, highest drafted kickers and punters. We saw Tampa move up, get themselves a kicker in the second round. How about this? In 1966, Washington, with the number 6 pick, not second round, not third round, the number 6 overall pick, they select Princeton kicker Charlie Gogolak. Now, Gogolak was one of the first soccer-style kickers. He was one of those guys that would come in from the side, kind of take that, they got so much more power than the straight-on kickers that we were used to back in the 50s and 60s. Gogolak came in. It's okay. I mean, he played 6 seasons. He made about 56% of his kicks. But here's the problem. When you draft a kicker that early, there's usually a guy later in the draft that you look back and say, oh, we could have had him. Because, the Chiefs took running back Mike Garrett at 18. I mean, Dallas took defensive back Walt Garrison later in the draft. There were a few other guys out there, and you used your pick on a kicker. Not always the best thing to do. As we do every single week, we have got to get to our Daily Dose top 5. Of course, we were talking NFL draft this week with Larry. Number of things that go on in the NFL draft. We see a lot of weird things. But today, I wanted to talk about some of the best NFL draft classes of all time. We talked last week. Talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers pulling 4 Hall of Famers in one draft class back in 1974. Pretty good draft. All for one team. Now, I'm not looking specifically at one team here. I'm looking at the entire class top to bottom. And to be fair, I'm not going to go back to the 50s and 60s and some of those drafts back there. There was only like 12 teams and way before my time, and I'm not doing that. But we are going to count down today the top 5 greatest NFL draft classes of the past 40 years. And again, we are looking at the entire class. Are we ready? Off we go. Number 5. Okay, it's still a little bit early to call this class one of the greatest, probably. I probably shouldn't have them on the list, but I'm going to put them on there because this class has a chance to have 3, 4, maybe 5 Hall of Famers in it. If some of these guys in the class of 2011 continue on their current path, they've got a chance. Yes, they have some bad picks in this class. They do. If you go back and you look at it, you say, there's a couple misses in here. But look at some of the talent that is in this draft class. Of course, Auburn quarterback Cam Newton went number 1 to the Carolina Panthers. He's been pretty solid. Not great, but he's been pretty good. Then, at number 2, the Denver Broncos took Texas A&M linebacker Von Miller. He's got a Super Bowl MVP. That's not bad. The Cincinnati Bengals picked Georgia wide receiver A.J. Green at 4. The Arizona Cardinals picked LSU defensive back Patrick Peterson at 5. Alabama wide receiver Julio Jones went 6th to the Atlanta Falcons. And at number 11, the Houston Texans grabbed Wisconsin defensive end J.J. Watt. Wasn't over yet. Later in the third round, Georgia defensive end Justin Houston went to Kansas City. And in the fifth round, the Seattle Seahawks took a cornerback from Stanford named Richard Sherman. So far, in the class of 2011, you have 29 different players that have gone to the Pro Bowl. And every year, they just add more. I know it's a little early, and I'll admit that, but 2011 has a chance to be a very, very good draft class. We're going to put them in our top 5. I know we are probably giving them a little too much leeway, but we're going to put them in there. Going to give at least a little bit of a newer draft class in this one. Number 4 on this list. Okay, this class doesn't have the depth that some of the other classes are going to have, but it is really, really top heavy. Check this out. In 1989, 4 of the first 5 players selected are now in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's pretty good. The Dallas Cowboys had the first pick, and they took UCLA quarterback Troy Aikman. Aikman, of course, went on to huge success. Michigan State monster bust Tony Mandrich went next. Okay, don't hold that one against us. But at number 3, the Detroit Lions picked Oklahoma State running back Barry Sanders. Again, pretty good. At number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs drafted Alabama linebacker Derek Thomas. We're not done yet. Then at number 5, the Atlanta Falcons picked a speedy cornerback out of Florida State named Deion Sanders. Yeah, all those 4 guys went to the Hall of Fame. And that's not counting guys like Arkansas safety Steve Atwater, Penn State offensive lineman Steve Wisniewski, Idaho offensive lineman Mark Schlereth, and Ole Miss tight end Wesley Walls. There are 4 Hall of Famers in this class. There are 23 different Pro Bowlers, and there are a bunch of Super Bowls in this class. So number 4 on our list, 1989. It's just going to get better, I'm telling you. Number 3 on our list of best draft classes has to go to 1985. You know, there were a couple of very good defensive ends at the top of this class, but 1985 was actually the year of the wide receiver. 2 defensive ends at the very top of the class. Everybody was kind of torn. Who do you pick? Who do you pick? This defensive end's really good. The other guy's really good. Which one should we pick? Turns out it didn't matter. With the top pick of the draft, the Buffalo Bills selected Virginia Tech defensive end Bruce Smith. Then, at number 4, the Minnesota Vikings selected Pitt defensive end Chris Dolman. Yeah, both of those guys were pretty good. I told you it was the year of the wide receiver. 2 wide receivers were taken early. We're not even counting these guys. The Jets picked Wisconsin wide receiver Al Toon at number 10. Al Toon had a solid career. Not a Hall of Famer, but a solid career. Then the Cincinnati Bengals picked Miami wide receiver Eddie Brown. I think Eddie Brown actually won the Rookie of the Year this year. He was at 13, solid, not great. But then, with the number 16 pick, the San Francisco 49ers took another wide receiver, this one out of Mississippi Valley State. Yes, Jerry Rice went to 13 Pro Bowls and is considered by many to be the best wide receiver ever. Then in the 4th round, Buffalo also took another wide receiver, Kutztown wide receiver Andre Reed. The Rams picked up Auburn defensive end Kevin Green in the 5th round. And again, we're not even talking about players like Herschel Walker, Lomas Brown, Randall Cunningham, and Jay Novacek. 5 Hall of Famers in the class of 1985. 30 different Pro Bowlers. Pretty good class. Not the best one, though. Number 2 on our list. Okay, 1981 didn't get started real strong. Not bad, but not real strong. In 1981, the New Orleans Saints took South Carolina running back George Rogers with the 1st overall pick. He was okay. Wasn't great. But then, at number 2, the New York Giants took a linebacker out of North Carolina named Lawrence Taylor. The Seahawks took UCLA safety Kenny Easley, and the San Francisco 49ers took USC defensive back Ronnie Lott. That's not bad, right? This wasn't over. In the 2nd round, we saw the Chicago Bears pick up Baylor linebacker Mike Singletary. The Raiders took a small school guy, some defensive end from Villanova named Howie Long. And the Saints did get it right later when they picked up Pitt linebacker Ricky Jackson. Oh yeah, and then the Washington Redskins, they drafted Pitt offensive lineman Russ Grimm. 7 Hall of Famers, 31 Pro Bowlers, and some of the best players in the history of the game came out of 1981. That is number 2 on our list. So what could be number 1? Of course, it has to be what we're all thinking of. Yes, it was the year of the quarterback. 1983, we remember 5 or 6 quarterbacks. Do you realize there were 16 quarterbacks selected It's a ton of quarterbacks. Any year, that's a ton of quarterbacks. But 1983 was the year of the quarterback. Of course, with the first pick, the Baltimore Colts selected Stanford quarterback John Elway. Now, he would, of course, be traded to Denver. With the second pick of the draft, the Los Angeles Rams selected SMU running back Eric Dickerson. At number 9, the Houston Oilers selected USC offensive lineman Bruce Matthews. Buffalo grabbed Miami quarterback Jim Kelly with the 14th pick, and lasting until pick number 27 was Pitt quarterback Dan Marino. The very next pick, at 28, was a kid from Texas A&M Kingsville, some defensive back named Darrell Green. Yeah, he went to Washington. In the 8th round, the Bears grabbed a defensive end from Tennessee State named Richard Dent. That is 7 Hall of Famers, 41 Pro Bowlers, and some of those Pro Bowlers, they're not too far from being Hall of Famers themselves. Chris Hinton, of course, the guy that was traded for John Elway. Carl Mecklenburg came out of this draft. Mark Clayton, Roger Craig, and Leonard Marshall. Not one, but 2 quarterbacks that are in the conversation, at least, for the greatest quarterback of all time. The 1983 draft class has got to be the best draft class of all time. Now, as we do every single week, we have got to get to our Daily Dose Top 5. You know, like I said just before the break, it seems to be the norm lately, doesn't it? Teams reach for quarterbacks way too early in the NFL draft. We see it year after year. Look at the first round failures that we see from NFL teams at the quarterback position. And I'm not going way back. I mean, these are recent history. These are real recent. Johnny Manziel, E.J. Manuel, Brandon Weeden was taken in the first round. Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert, Christian Ponder, Tim Tebow, Josh Freeman, Jamarcus Russell, and Brady Quinn. They were all taken in the first round just in the past 9-10 years or so. Because NFL teams always feel like they need to go reach, they need to go get that quarterback that they think is going to be their future. Now, this year, there is talk about 4 to 5 quarterbacks that could be taken in the first round alone. I'm sure every one of them is going to turn out just great, right? Of course, the most quarterbacks that we have ever seen taken in the first round was back in 1983. We had 6 quarterbacks taken in the top 27 selections. But believe it or not, going back like 60 years, there have only been 5 years that a quarterback was not taken at all in the first round. Right now, we are going to take a look at those 5 times. Coming in at number 5. Back in 1973, we did see Burt Jones taken out of LSU by the Baltimore Colts with the 2nd overall pick. But in 1974, there was not a single quarterback taken in the entire first round. The Dallas Cowboys selected Tennessee State defensive lineman Ed Too Tall Jones with the top overall pick. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they did grab a wide receiver out of USC, guy by the name of Lynn Swann, with the 22nd pick, but it wouldn't be until the first pick of the 3rd round that Dallas would select Arizona State quarterback Danny White. Then in the 4th round, the Los Angeles Rams selected Ole Miss quarterback Norris Weiss. I mean, he did go on to play a little bit here in Denver. There just weren't many great quarterbacks coming out in 74. The difference between then and now? Teams didn't just pick one anyway and just talk themselves into it and have all this combine stuff and, well, he jumped really high. Maybe we should take him with the 4th pick. This wasn't an untalented draft by any means in 1974. The Steelers in 1974 had what might have been the greatest draft ever. They picked up Lynn Swann, Jack Lambert, Mike Webster, and John Stallworth all in 1974. The Oakland Raiders, they grabbed Notre Dame tight end Dave Casper, and the Denver Broncos took Ohio State linebacker Randy Gradishar. Hey, that's a pretty good haul. There just weren't many quarterbacks in 1974. Moving on to number 4. In the year following the most quarterbacks ever selected in the draft in 1983, we had 1984 in which there wasn't a single quarterback taken in the first round. The New England Patriots took Nebraska wide receiver Irving Fryer with the top pick. The New York Giants took linebacker Carl Banks at number 3, and the Chicago Bears took Florida linebacker Wilbur Marshall at 11. But the first quarterback, he wasn't taken until the second round. That's when Cincinnati selected Maryland quarterback Boomer Esiason. Then the New York Giants selected West Virginia quarterback Jeff Hostetler in the third round. And a few picks later in the third, Washington took UCLA quarterback Jay Schrader. Hey, for not having a quarterback taken in the first round, that's not a bad group of quarterbacks, really. Boomer Esiason, Jeff Hostetler, Jay Schrader, not bad, but not a single first rounder in that group. 1 year later, in 1985, we actually saw it again. I mean, you could hardly blame the Buffalo Bills for their top pick. They took Virginia Tech defensive end Bruce Smith. Of course, he went on to a Hall of Fame career. The Minnesota Vikings got linebacker Chris Dolman. San Francisco got a wide receiver out of Mississippi Valley State named Jerry Rice. But the first quarterback selected in 1985 wasn't taken until the second round with pick number 37 when the Philadelphia Eagles took UNLV quarterback Randall Cunningham. The Buffalo Bills took Maryland quarterback Frank Reich in the third. Minnesota took UCLA quarterback Steve Bono in the sixth. Of course, he would go on to some playing time in San Francisco, a little bit of playing time in Kansas City. And in the 11th round, which of course we don't even have anymore, the Los Angeles Rams took a little guy out of Boston College named Doug Flutie, who would end up going to Canada and playing up there instead. Hey, again, 1985. That's a decent quarterback class. Randall Cunningham, Frank Reich, Steve Bono, Doug Flutie, that's not bad. Sometimes good things come to those teams who wait. Moving on to our number 2 selection. There were no quarterbacks taken in the first round in 1988, which, while very talented, might be more remembered for having a few busts. The Atlanta Falcons took Auburn linebacker Andre Bruce with the top pick, and of course they ended up regretting it. Tampa, they drafted Wisconsin offensive tackle Paul Gruber at number 4. The Bengals took Oklahoma defensive back Ricky Dixon at 5. And yes, there was some serious talent in 1988. A lot of the top teams just missed out on it. Randall McDaniel went to Minnesota. Michael Irvin went to Dallas. Dermontti Dawson went to Pittsburgh. That's 3 Hall of Famers right there in 88. But the first quarterback taken wasn't until the third round. It was a guy that you will think of probably more as a punter. The Phoenix Cardinals took Ohio State quarterback / punter Tom Tupa with the 68th overall pick. Chris Chandler went to Indianapolis at pick 76. Washington selected a guy from Louisiana Monroe named Stan Humphries in the 6th round, and he eventually took the San Diego Chargers to the Super Bowl. 1988, no quarterbacks taken in the first round though. Finally, we get to our number 1 entry on years of the NFL draft that there was no quarterback taken in the entire first round. And this was the most recent time that we went a first full round without a single quarterback being selected. In 1996, this was another year of what was probably a little bit of an underachieving class, right? The New York Jets took USC wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson with the top pick. Keyshawn was solid. I don't know if he was great, but he was solid. But then we saw a run of players that never really did much in the NFL. Kevin Hardy, Cedric Jones, Lawrence Phillips. But the Baltimore Ravens actually struck big in this draft. In 1996, Baltimore got UCLA offensive tackle Jonathan Ogden with the number 4 pick. And then they got Miami linebacker Ray Lewis at number 26. We did also see Brian Dawkins, Marvin Harrison, and Terrell Owens all get drafted in 1996, but the first quarterback taken was in the second round when Michigan State's Tony Banks was drafted by St. Louis. We saw Bobby Hoying out of Ohio State get taken by Philadelphia in the third round, and the New York Giants took Danny Cannell in the 4th. There were actually just 9 quarterbacks taken in the entire 1996 draft, and honestly, those 3 guys are probably the only names that you would even recognize. Because I went down that list, I didn't know any of the other ones. Now, these are 5 examples of NFL drafts where there wasn't a single quarterback selected in the first round. but we still saw a few solid quarterbacks come out of these drafts. Is this year's draft class any better than the ones we just discussed? I have no idea. I honestly don't. Time will tell. But I know this, if you are patient, you can find some talent. Taking a quarterback too high, it puts unreal expectations on both the player and on the franchise. And we see so many examples of them failing again and again. But I'm sure that won't happen this year, right?
Hey, next week on The Dose, I have got a very special guest that I am chasing. And I'm telling you right now, he has a story that is super interesting. Trust me, you will not want to miss it. Be sure you stop by The Dose next week, and be sure you let a friend know to do the same. You will not regret it. Hey, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for listening to the Daly Dose every week. Thank you for the emails. Thank you for the texts. Thank you for the tweets. Thank you for going over to DailyDoseSports.com every week and checking out the new things we have going on over there. But more than anything, thank you for sharing the show, for sharing the videos, and for sharing the articles with someone that you know. We absolutely love it when you do that. I have to say thank you to JSP. Could not do any of this without you. I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a great week, everybody.